Hey, what is going on there? This is Wildlife X Team, and today we're going to be teaching you what you should do if you get bit by a wildlife animal such as a bat, a raccoon, or even a wild dog. The main issue with wildlife animals, especially raccoons, is the issue of rabies. Rabies is a very dangerous viral disease, which means it's a virus and it affects the brain. Usually, symptoms start appearing 8-ish hours after you get bit, and usually within an hour or two after the first symptoms start to appear, you're going to die. So it's very dangerous, and raccoons especially are a rabies vector species, which means while any mammal can carry and transmit and have rabies, raccoons particularly tend to be the transmitters of rabies. So if you see any raccoons that have discharge at the eyes or the mouth, they're kind of staggering around, they aren't very purposeful, they're not alert, you should call a wildlife expert immediately because there's an issue with raccoons kind of spreading rabies, and it can be very dangerous to the public. In some cases, raccoons will randomly go up to people and bite them. Now that's very, very rare, but it does happen, and it has happened before. Rabies kills about 59,000 people per year, and so you don't want to be a statistic. It's very easy to cure rabies, or prevent it rather. We don't have a cure per se for it. However, if you do get bit, there are treatments that are almost always going to guarantee you're going to make it 100%, but if you think you've been bit by a wildlife animal or there's any question about rabies, you should call a wildlife expert immediately because rabies is too risky, and while there have been a few humans which have survived rabies, 99% of humans will die from rabies. It's a very dangerous infection. A lot of people in the United States too are already vaccinated from rabies. It's usually in the standard vaccination, but this is going to differ from state to state and on the actual vaccinations that you've had. So you're going to want to check to see if you've had a rabies vaccination, and if you haven't and you've been bit by a wildlife animal, be safe and call a wildlife expert immediately. Get animal control and even call the ER. It doesn't matter, you need to get treated immediately. And even if you've already had a rabies vaccination, it's just going to decrease the likelihood that something's going to come up in you, and there's still a small probability that rabies could affect you, or any other disease for that matter. In this example, we're just using rabies because rabies is the predominant issue when it comes to wildlife animals transmitting diseases to humans. So even if you've had a vaccination, get the ER, whatever, get to a hospital or a vaccination center so that way you can get vaccinated for rabies even after you've been bit. Some of the symptoms of rabies is prickling or weird sensations at the site of injury, inability to drink water or just not, struggling drinking water, agitation, anxiety, an extreme headache, loss of kind of consciousness, kind of hallucinating can be a very big one of rabies. And if you've been bit by a wildlife animal or you've been in nature and you start having any of these symptoms or fatigue or you're feeling really off, don't hesitate, don't play around. Immediately get to the ER or a vaccination center or to somebody that can give you a rabies vaccination. Odds are too, the vaccination center or emergency room is going to give you a tetanus shot as well, in addition to some other shots, which is just going to prevent any other potential diseases that the wildlife animals could transmit to you. In almost every single case, if you get bit by a wildlife animal and you go to the ER immediately before you have any symptoms, and again, don't wait for symptoms because remember, as soon as symptoms appear, it's only going to be a couple hours before you start losing consciousness and then potentially die. So if you get bit by a wildlife animal, get to the ER immediately, whether or not you think it's rabid, and call the wildlife control department. And usually what's going to happen is you're going to get vaccinated on day 0, day 3, day 7, and day 14. However, this is going to differ from state to state or even city. It's just going to be their standard protocol, but one way or another, if you get bit by a wildlife animal, you don't have too much to fear as long as you go to the ER or a vaccination center immediately, so that way you can get issued some rabies vaccinations. Maybe they'll give you some tetanus shots as well. You're gonna be having quite a few shots, so you're gonna have to endure that, but it's way better than dealing with rabies, because with rabies, like we just discussed, there's a very low chance of survival. So at the end of the day, you don't have to fear too much, because the probability of getting bit by a wildlife animal, unless you're aggravating it or doing something stupid, is going to be very, very low. And then the probability that it actually has rabies is going to be a bit lower, and so on and so forth. It's going to be very, very low, a chance that you get rabies. But still, if you get bit by a wildlife animal for whatever reason, we urge you to go to the ER immediately, go to a vaccination center. Just call 911 and get yourself treated immediately before symptoms appear. It's not worth the risk, and once the symptoms are appearing, it's almost always too late when it comes to rabies. So you're gonna get vaccinated, you're gonna be treated, and you're gonna be 100% fine. Usually what happens is you get vaccinated and then that's pretty much it. And they're doing on day 0, that vaccination is usually just going to stop the virus, and you probably won't feel any symptoms besides a mild headache caused from all the shots you're getting, but you're still gonna be vaccinated on day 3, 7, or whatever the clinic or hospital decides to do, etc., just because it's going to be safer and they care for your safety 100%. So we hope you guys enjoyed this video. There's not too much to fear, like we said, but if you do get bit, be safe and go to the ER immediately. We hope this video helped you, and if you have any questions, leave them in the comment section below. Make sure to leave a thumbs up and subscribe for more great videos. We'll see you in the next one.